All right. So in our last class, we discussed about our ultrafiltration and selective absorption. So today, let's first talk about how exactly does the body control the water content of the body. The amount of water in the body is actually controlled by a very specific hormone. Okay, this hormone is antidiuretic hormone, or for short form, we also call it EDH. So when we talk about, remember in the last class when we were discussing it, so I told you that your body decides what things it wants to absorb back, right? So if there's not enough water in the body will decide to absorb it back. If there is already a lot of water in the body, then the body might decide to keep it, like let it get removed in the form of urine. So that is basically what the role of ADH is, or antidiuretic hormone is, that it controls the amount of water inside the body. So now when we talk about your the hormone ADH, okay, this hormone is released usually from the pituitary gland. And the hormone works in this way that, so basically, let's say that there is less water in the body. You were out playing sports, out playing football or something, and you haven't drunk any water in a while. So your body is low on water. Okay. Since your body is low in water, what is going to happen? That the concentration of your blood will change. Your blood becomes more concentrated. Sorry, excuse me, I have a very bad throat. Okay, so it becomes the blood becomes concentrated. Now, this is actually detected. So the change in the concentration of the blood is detected by the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is a region of the brain. The hypothalamus will detect that, the amount of water in the body is too less and our blood has become very concentrated. So this will cause the hypothalamus will send a message to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland will start to produce ADH, antidiuretic hormone. This ADH is going to then travel to the kidney. It's going to travel to the kidney, and over there, it will cause your renal tubules to become more permeable to water. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. So renal tumors become more permeable to water. So what happens? More water is resorbed back into the body. More water is resorbed back into the body. So the urine will become more concentrated and the blood concentration returns back to normal. So now imagine if it was the opposite. You have been drinking a lot of water, right? So in that case, your blood would be dilute. So your hypothalamus will send a message to the pituitary gland to stop producing ADH. So the kidney tubules will become less permeable, less water will be absorbed back into the body, and the urine will be dilute, and our blood will become more concentrated. So this is referred to as the negative feedback mechanism. Viraj, I went over the negative feedback mechanism with you before as well, right? I taught you about it when we did our hormones. Right, Viraj? I have taught you about the negative feedback mechanism when we did hormones, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Remember?
Okay, it's okay. I will cover it again. Negative feedback mechanism is basically this, that the body always tries to return any change back to normal. So remember, in the hormones we had studied that if there's too much, too little glucose in the blood, the body will release insulin, and the insulin will bring the glucose back to normal, right?
Yeah.
If the glucose in the body is too less, then it will release glucagon and it will bring the insulin back up. This is the negative feedback mechanism. This applies to pretty much, okay, all processes in our body. They all use the negative feedback mechanism except for one or two. There are a few exceptions, which is basically that imagine that the patient's your blood pressure becomes too high. Your body will perform some changes, it will do whatever changes need to be done and bring it back to normal. Blood pressure falls too low, the body will do some changes and bring it back to normal. uh, the amount of water in the body has become too much, the body will do some changes and bring it back to normal. The amount of water in the body is too less, the body will do some changes and bring it back to normal. This is applies with everything, like everything in the entire body. It usually works with negative feedback mechanism. There is less oxygen in the body, your body will do whatever it needs to do to bring it back up. Too much oxygen, if you know that might be happening, hyperventilation or something like that, breathing too hard, the body will try to bring it back to normal. Heart rate is too high, body will try to bring it back to normal. Heart rate is too low, body will try to increase it back up. This is negative feedback, that the body will always do opposite to the feedback it is receiving. So it is receiving the feedback that the heart rate is too high. So it will do the opposite, it will bring it back down. If the feedback is that the heartbeat is too low, the body will bring it back up. This is negative feedback, that the body will always do opposite to the feedback to bring it back to normal, because that's the goal of the body, bring it back to normal. Sorry. So, this is negative feedback. Most of your body works with negative feedback. You can also have positive feedback. An example of positive feedback mechanism is labor. When a woman goes into labor, the uterus contracts, right? Every time the uterus contracts, it sends a message to the brain, and in response, the brain produces even more hormones, even more oxytocin, to make the uterus contract again. Then that contraction will again send a message, and the body will produce in response even more hormones to make the contraction stronger, right? So that is positive feedback. The feedback is coming that the uterus is contracting and the body is making it contract even more. That is positive. Negative is that the body does opposite and bring it back to normal. Okay? So this ADH is also an example of negative feedback mechanism. Now, when same thing, Viraj, that you can think about when we talk about control of body temperature. If the body temperature becomes too high, the body will try to bring it back to normal, right? Negative feedback. Okay, so this is how the body's water content is controlled. Now, let's the other important part of this chapter is control of body temperature. Let's take a look at that. Let me share with you a diagram of your skin. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I found it. So when we talk about the control of how does your body control the temperature, right? Now, you probably already know this, but mm, mammals, not just mammals, your birds as well, mammals, they are generally defined as warm blooded. Instead of saying warm blooded, it would be better if we use the term homeothermic. Homeothermic means that they can regulate their body temperature. It doesn't matter what the temperature is outside, right? Temperature of the surroundings, it can be whatever it has to be. But we can have the ability to regulate our internal body temperature. Even if it's cold outside, your body will still keep the internal temperature at 37 degrees centigrade. On the other hand, when we talk about cold blooded animals, so cold blooded animals are like, your reptiles and all, they cannot regulate their body temperature, so their body temperature changes with changes in the external environment. That is why a lot of your fishes and stuff, if you change their water temperature, they can easily die. Now, when we talk about mammals specifically, okay, so mammals specifically are referred to as can also be referred to as endotherm. What do we mean by endotherm? That they can actually use the heat from our chemical reactions. You know, our body is always performing respiration and all those different chemical reactions. So it can actually use the heat from the chemical reactions to keep the body warm, right? Now, when we talk about our brain, so in our brain, we have a certain area of the brain that we call the thermoregulatory center. The thermoregulatory center is the portion of the brain that actually detects if you are is the external environment, is it cold, is it hot, and based on that it will then send a message to your body to maintain the internal temperature of the body. Excuse me. Now when we talk about what, like, there are different areas of your body that work together to control your temperature. Okay. And one of those is your skin. Let's first discuss what are some of the functions of the skin. So, first major function of the skin is that it resists mechanical damage, right? It keeps us basically safe from any bumps, bruises, injuries as best as it can. Acts as a barrier to entry of pathogens. It prevents loss of water. It acts as a sense organ, and it controls loss of heat. Now, when we talk about this is the structure of the skin, okay? So you have your hair, you have your hair follicles, your sweat glands, the capillaries, the muscles, the nerve endings, the fatty tissue, the muscle. All of this is a part uh, of your body, of your skin. So when we talk, let's start with the first one. That's epidermis. Epidermis basically consists of dead cells. Okay, you probably know this. But the top layer of your skin is basically dead cells, right? Because your skin is one of those tissues that is constantly dividing. So it consists of dead cells, and the main function is to stop water loss and protect you against pathogens. Excuse me. Then you have the hypodermis. Hypodermis is the fatty tissue, okay. And then we have the dermis. Dermis contains your touch and pressure receptors are found in the dermis. It also includes your sensory receptors, blood vessels, all of these. Now, let's talk about how exactly does the body regulate temperature. Let's first talk about what happens if there's a rise in temperature. When we talk about rise in temperature, so what are we actually going to see? Number one, your sweat glands are going to come in action. Your sweat glands are going to produce a lot of sweat. Okay, let's understand how sweat helps us in this. Okay, I'm going to relate this, Viraj, slightly to physics. If you remember when I did your heat physics and all with you, I'm going to relate it to that. So basically, what happens is this, that when the sweat evaporates off our skin, okay, so if you remember, water usually has a high latent heat, right? So the water, the sweat, absorbs the heat energy from our skin. And it absorbs that heat energy from our skin, and then it changes from liquid state to gaseous state. So that makes our body cool down because heat energy is transferred from the skin to the sweat, and the sweat evaporates away. So this causes our body to cool down. Okay, now I do want to point out one thing because I don't know, sometimes students have asked me that, sometimes the sweating feels worse, like in some climates, especially in our tropical climate, okay? Notice something that, when it's like the peak summer weather, and it's just, I mean, you are sweating, but the sweating doesn't seem to be helping. Like you just feel more sticky and you feel worse. That is generally because in a lot of tropical countries, right, the weather is very humid. Since the weather is so humid, so the sweat doesn't evaporate. So it stays on your skin and you actually feel worse. But if we talk about dry climates, then in dry climates, the generally the sweat will evaporate away and your body will actually feel cooler due to the sweating. Then the second process is your hair. The attached to the hair, we have certain muscles, okay? These muscles are known as hair erector muscles. These are hair erector muscles. So the hair erector muscles will contract. The hair erector muscles are going to contract. So, okay, actually, sorry, not contract. They will relax in hot weather. Okay, in hot weather, in cold weather, they will contract. They will relax, and the hair will lie flat. Right? So that means that there will be less trapped air, less trapped air means that there's going to be less insulation. So you will lose more heat energy. Then the third major thing that happens is vasodilation. Okay, so basically what happens that the blood vessels dilate, blood vessels close to the skin, close to the surface of the skin. So when the blood vessels close to the surface of the skin dilate, that allows more heat energy to basically diffuse out of the body. Please, okay, just in case you don't know, just in case, I think you should know, Viraj, but just in case you don't know, vasodilation is widening of the blood vessels. Now, so this is what happens when the temperature rises. And let's talk about what happens when the temperature falls. What number one thing that your body is going to do when the temperature decreases is shivering. Shivering is rhythmic contractions of the muscle. It's rhythmic contractions of the muscle. So the rhythmic contraction actually stimulates your aerobic respiration, right? Because your muscles are contracting, relaxing, so that will make require more oxygen, and also aerobic respiration will increase. So more anaerobic respiration, heat energy is produced. So more heat energy is produced. Then another thing that we are going to see is that you will see again the hair, but in this you will have the opposite. The hair erector muscle will contract. When the hair erector muscle contracts, the hair stands up and traps the air. You can relate this to physics convection. So, when the air is trapped, Raj, basically convection current cannot set up. Obviously, air is an insulating material, so you can't lose energy through conduction. Then, because the air is trapped, it's not free to move. So, convection also doesn't happen, right? So, the only way we can lose energy is due to radiation. And even in that, if you look at a lot of those animals that live in very cold weather, like polar bears, so they generally tend to be white in color and they reflect the sun rays back. And sorry, they yeah, basically they do not. So they white is a poor emitter, so they don't really lose a lot of heat energy that way. So it traps the air, and the air acts as an insulating material, keeping the keeping us warm. Now, keep in mind that especially this might not be that applicable to you and me, BTW, but this is very applicable to animals who obviously have a lot of fur and feathers, and that helps keep them warm. Then we have vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is when the blood vessels become narrow. So this minimizes heat loss. And this is basically how the body will maintain a internal body temperature. Making sense, Viraj? Any part that's not clear or any confusion in anything? Viraj, all clear? Any confusion? Viraj, when did you get disconnected?
Um, yeah, I just like 1 or 2 minutes ago. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, so basically, these are the three ways that the body deals when the temperature of the surrounding decreases. So, vasoconstriction is when the blood vessels become narrow, and the narrowing of the blood vessel minimizes heat loss because the blood vessels are narrow, so less heat energy will be able to diffuse out. So this is all there is in your chapter of hemostasis and excretion. Is there any confusion or any part that's not clear?
No.
Okay, good. All right. We have 5 minutes, so let's just take a look at a small question. Hold on. Okay, Viraj, your question. Do one thing. Go ahead and read the question yourself. I can't talk anymore. So go ahead, read the question yourself. Let me know what you think the answer is.
I got 42.9.
42.9.
Never mind. Never mind. That's wrong. That's wrong. Forgot to convert TM into CM. The answer is 0.04.
Are you dividing by 1,000? Should you not multiply? Because we're going from large unit to small unit.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We're supposed to multiply, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
multiply by 1,000.
1,000. Yeah, I did that.
Okay, 1 second. You are going to do 600 divided by 1400, right?
No. No, yeah. Because we're supposed to give our
Yeah.
answer in centimeters cube.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, we are supposed to do 600 divided by 1400, right?
Okay.
Amount divided by concentration, so we'll get the volume, right? So 600 divided by 1400 will give you 0.428. If you
Mm-hmm.
multiply that by 1000, you'll get 428, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Name another organ that carries out excretion in the human body.
Skin
Yeah,
or
skin,
lungs?
lungs are fine as well. Explain the role of nephron in osmoregulation.
Oh, okay. Do I write it down?
No, it's okay. You can just say it verbally. I don't think you have the time. You have another class right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Just say it out.
Nephron, yeah. Um, Nephron is used to absorb the nutrients like water and
Yeah. So
glucose reabsorb.
in this question, you just talk about water mostly because osmo is water. What osmoregulation means water regulation. So you just need to refer to water.
So like, do I write down how water gets into the nephron and like that
Yeah.
kind of
So if
stuff?
you and if you want, you can add about ADH as well. That the ADH causes the water. If the water, so basically say it like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If the water in the body is too low, the body will release or the pituitary gland will release ADH, which will increase the permeability of the nephron, and the nephron will absorb the water back into the body. This will make the urine more concentrated, but it will return the water content of the body back to normal. And if the water content of the body is too low, then if the water content of the body is too high, so the body will reduce the amount of ADH. So the permeability of nephron will decrease. Nephron will resorb less water or take less water back into the body. So the urine will become more dilute. Right? So this is how you can explain it. So osmoregulation is a very specific term that refers only to water regulation. Okay, like osmosis, osmotic potential, osmos water. So you just need to talk about how the nephron, when the water is less, the nephron will absorb the water back into the body. When the water is too much, the nephron will not absorb it back. It will be excreted from the body. So that's all you have to explain it. How does the body control the water content, basically?
Okay.
All right. Okay, Viraj, let's go ahead and stop it over here for today. And in the next class, we can continue with our questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next class. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.